Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Amplify with Adam. Today we have Mark Payne here from Profast Machine. Super excited to talk to you, Mark. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So I'll kick it over to you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and about Profast.
So I've been a machinist for almost 15 years, almost exclusively CNC machining and programming. I came up through the trade in, the early 2000s. So manual shops, they're around still to this day, but, I started a little late. So I'm a button pusher, as some of the more orthodox machinists might call me, and machinists like me. I started Profast while working for a very high profile aerospace CNC manufacturing company. It was a fantastic company to work for. And I just started with a little CNC machine in a 2-car garage.
Nice.
And I started there about 4 years ago. And about 8 months, I'd say, I had had the machine for about 8 months. And by just a little bit of marketing and doing quality work for other bigger shops in the Northern California area, my work got out there, and suddenly clients of bigger shops were requesting to have parts machined by me. And so, I was starting with a CNC machine in my garage while working a full-time job as a CNC programmer for a much larger shop, and you compensated well, et cetera, et cetera. And it got to the point where it was like, I can't do both. I've got to, jump or get off the pot, right? Or whatever.
Yeah.
So that was kind of how it started. And that was in March of 2017. We moved into a 2,000 square foot facility. It was just me and the one machine. And then I bought my second CNC, hired on a couple of guys. We purchased some more top of the line metrology equipment and stuff like that. And now we're expecting our third CNC machine, and we are completely out of power and space.
Dang, oh no, man.
So it's going to be another
That's a champagne problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's a good problem to have.
But at the end of the day, it's still a problem.
Yeah, that's true.
And a problem needs a solution, right? And so the solution is we'll just stay at max capacity until we can't anymore.
Yeah. So when you were working your job at the aerospace machining company and you were working on the side, what kind of got you interested in working, having that second life, if you will, or that second career? Was it just that you love it so much, or was it, that you saw a gap in the market that you could, help service with quality parts? Why, if you were, being compensated well, you love that company, like what kind of got you interested in starting?
So the biggest thing I've noticed in manufacturing as a whole, but especially CNC machining, is passion. If an employee for any machine shop, or manufacturing facility doesn't have the drive and the passion for the industry, it shows just dramatically.
Yeah.
You could really tell the guys that I worked with over the years who was really into it and who was there as a job. And if it's a job, that's fine. That's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But it wasn't me. I was super passionate about the new technology. If I go over to a CNC machine and, I can hear them both running right now and I know exactly what they sound like. And if I go over there and I watch that tool make its tool path, it's just as exciting as it was 14 years ago when I first saw it.
Yeah.
So that was really what drove me to want to take the leap for myself, was that passion. I'm just really passionate. I still look at a part, I'll still grab a part and be like, man, we made that.
That's incredible.
That's so cool.
That is, I do think that's one of the, that's one of the most amazing things, is it's so tangible, and it's like, it starts from a block of plastic, metal, whatever, and then you make something, right? And it is really a tangible, exciting thing to be able to say, I helped and you'll see things that you make kind of out in the world, and you're like, holy cow, I helped design the prototype for that, or I helped, machine that, or it's really, it really encapsulates that. That's cool.
Yeah. And so that was what drove me, also there was that gap in the market where, the freedom of owning my own machine shop, right? I want to go home to see my kids today. I can do that. That sort of flexibility, and the control of my own destiny, I guess. The future goal for Profast Machine is never to be too much larger than we are now. It's me and 3 full-time employees, and I honestly believe that the next step for manufacturing is kind of like, it's a weird analogy, but breweries. You know how they went to microbrews?
Yeah.
Microbrews are all the rave. Who drinks one of the 4 major breweries, really? I mean, if anybody's going to drink a beer, it's going to be a little brewery.
You're not wrong. I haven't had a Coors Light in a while,
Most people aren't dying for a Budweiser, right?
Yeah.
It's usually I know this little IPA, that's what I drink, or what have you. And I think machine shops are going to do the same thing. I think that we're going to be into this micro machine shop era.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just what I saw for the very long goal, the real long term.
That's a really interesting take, and one that, I haven't heard before, but also makes a lot of sense. And you see a lot of transition here. So, I think the passion to help you start your own small business is so incredible. And the idea of sticking, to a similar size is interesting. So do you see that your growth is more in additional capabilities and skill sets for your existing employees, less in, size and growth to being a large CNC shop?
I think automation is always the most helpful thing in this industry. And the more we can automate, the better. It's easier, the skill sets in the shop right now range drastically, with a guy with more experience than me, and then 2 very new guys. And so I've learned just over the past couple of years of hiring new employees is training with automation is easier. Mm-hmm. You can explain more while you're watching something do something in an automated process. So we're going to be looking towards more automation, things with multiple spindles, kind of done in one capabilities, which is we run Mazaks only, and Mazak, that's actually their trademark phrase, is done in one. Mm-hmm. You push the button and you get a complete part. So that's kind of what we're looking forward to, is this next machine will have more automation capabilities and less door time, as they call it in the industry. Yeah. The door's not open while you're in the middle of setup and program, and it's kind of more just load the program and shut the door and you get a part.
Yeah. So now have you stuck in, I know you said you came from the aerospace industry, and that's a hotbed in Northern California. Are you mainly focused in aerospace, or have you been able to diversify as your customer base has grown?
So it's been a lot of aerospace, but not so much as far as, like the big heavy hitters. We all know who they are, right? Yep. I've found more, there's nooks and crannies in the aerospace. There's believe it or not, a huge calling for bush planes. Yeah, and so they have a ton of components that are all not disposable, but they go out and you need to replace them. And so that's an aerospace customer that we have, and we do a lot of work for them. Fluid control for gas and oil. It's hot and cold, right? It's up and down.
Yeah.
But we've diversified that way and found some pretty good customers that are very, very pleased with what we do, and we do a lot of fluid control stuff as far as valves and that sort of stuff.
I think finding the nooks and crannies in the industry that you work in too is so important, right? Like owning a little piece of it and really being able to distinguish yourself within that industry is that's awesome that you've been able to do that. That's really impressive. So now when you're talking about training your new employees, is it a lot of you've got a ton of industry knowledge, and you said you've got another guy that's got more than you. Is it a lot of passing on tribal knowledge? Have you been able to direct them to really good sources of information? Like, kind of where do you get a lot of your training, techniques down?
So it does kind of boil back to my first point, that observation I made really early on, is if it's the passion.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of my knowledge, I was really lucky throughout the years to have a few really good mentors that would show me the shortcuts not to take, as well as the shortcuts to take,
Right.
and the correct way to do things. And but that's only going to carry about 40% of my knowledge. The other 60% was all self-taught, and
Right.
you can find so much just on the internet. I mean, it's 2021. There's really nothing you can't find if you want to look for it, but you have to want to look for it.
Right.
And so that's the thing with new employees, is it's trying to see if, is this operator going to, want to just run parts for us, or is he going to want to take it to the next level and learn how the tool works and what it does? Or that's just kind of
go into the brand, like the OEM of the tool, right? Like they have a ton of good content. You've got amazing YouTube channels, for access there. And you've also got some thought leaders in the space that are putting out a ton of good content. So you're right. Some of it's like, am I willing to take on the homework, basically?
Yeah,
like, coming to work and then light reading at night, watching YouTube videos and learning from the tools and stuff.
Yeah. And so that's what I always noticed, that the top guys that I, went up through the ranks with, that's what they did. So CNC work, it's automated, right? Your machine's running by itself. So you have some butt time. You can sit down perhaps in front of the computer while the machine is running. And, what are you going to do? Are you going to go on Craigslist and look for your 4x4 parts? Or are you going to pick a cool CNC YouTube channel? And there was a clear distinction between the guys I've worked with over the years. There was, the two types, if you will.
Yeah. Now
I kind of look for that when we're getting somebody in here,
Yeah, 100%, man, 100%. Now, obviously you've got the machining experience, but also what I don't think a lot of people view, and they should, is that small manufacturers are also small businesses, right? So you're a small business owner. What are some lessons that you've learned that, maybe if you're talking to your younger self as you're getting ready to take that leap, right? Like, what are some things that you would say, hey man, really pay attention to this. This is important as you're about to take on this, because you're wearing a lot of hats as a small business owner. That's true in every industry.
Yeah, absolutely. Gosh. That is a tough question, Adam. What would I tell my younger self?
Yeah.
Gosh. We've been really fortunate, and I have been really fortunate. I would have told myself to do it sooner.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Just go for it, and start talking to people and start making those contacts with companies. I would have told myself to start sooner.
Yeah.
That's the biggest one.
Yeah. And I think the talking to people is important too, because like you said, like the YouTube channels and stuff, that all generates from the manufacturing community. Most people are willing to share their knowledge, share their experience, right? So if you're on Reddit threads and communities, if you're on YouTube, right? Like people are willing to engage with you, local communities. So those were all internet, but local communities, manufacturers, I'm sure that you've experienced this as well, but people are willing to talk about, because they have that passion, right? And if you're passionate about something, you talk about it a lot.
Right,
So,
exactly.
You had some good mentors in your past?
I did. I was really fortunate to have some guys that were not nice and cuddly, but they were good machining mentors. They were blue collar tradesmen through and through. There's no doubt about that. But they had a lot of good knowledge, and they were willing to share those secrets. If you go back a generation, though, those guys are a lot harder to find.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna take it to the grave, apparently, for some reason. But I was fortunate enough to have some guys that really showed me, like I said, the shortcuts to take and the ones not to. And I got to see the things that they could program and machine in, what I always considered really fast. They were really fast and really clean, and they were really smart.
Mm-hmm.
And so any advice that they would give me, or any thing they would give me, I usually just took it at face value, and it's proved to be really beneficial.
Just being a sponge in those environments.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the thing, is just try to absorb all you can from them. At some point you can't get it all through osmosis. You at some point have to go try and do it.
Right. Yeah.
And that's when you learn the last time if it's a good thing or bad thing, right?
Yeah, no, trial and error too. That definitely occurs in the space. So now, when you said that automation is important to you guys, is there any like certain technologies that you're looking at to implement? Like when you look towards the future of Profast Machine, is there anything that really excites you as far as things that you're drawn to layer into the capabilities in your shop?
Yeah. So for me personally, I started out with a 4-axis live tooling lathe. So it's a turning center, but it has milling capabilities. And this third machine that we're going to bring in is another one of those, but newer, with more automation capabilities. And so moving forward, I see a real demand for multi-axis turning centers. So the big Integrex machines and the machines that can do full mill capabilities as well as full turning all in one shot. Those seem to be, they look to be the most productive to me, and thus, the most profitable. So later down the line, we're going to be looking at one of those bigger multi-axis turning centers where it has dual spindles, a true milling spindle, and some pretty good size capacity, so that it can do anything from a 1/2 inch diameter all the way to 12 inches in diameter.
Yeah. I think that the multi-axis, the being able to do kind of the one and done, like you were talking about, a lot of engineers are speccing parts more complex, right? And so that trend is, it's never going to be less complex than it is right now, right? Like it's always going to trend there. So adding those capabilities in will be super important for shops, and I think you've made a good point there. So. Yeah, no, man, this has been a phenomenal conversation. So I want to make sure, any final thoughts for some of our listeners as far as, what you see, kind of what you're excited about. I can tell you're really passionate about the manufacturing industry, or any kind of, if you were to distill down kind of one lesson like you were talking about, any final thoughts for folks checking in today?
I'm really excited that Xometry exists. I will actually throw a plug. Because especially when I was starting in a garage with a machine, kind of on the fence, would I like to start a full-on business with employees and all that takes, and you're looking for work and you're trying to make those contacts and you're trying to get your name out there and you do good work, because that's really what you need to do in this day and age. You need to make good parts, and they need to look good, and they need to fit right. And, Xometry was there with just, a job board. I started out just looking at some of the jobs on the job board, and those really helped fill in the gaps while I was creating contacts and getting and securing bigger contracts with customers that were going to create blanket orders for the year, which, now we have several. And that's one of the biggest things I was grateful. I really was grateful they were there. And still to this day, there's always a little job that'll either come into my email or I'll just scroll through and, hey, that fits right into the schedule. Like that machine's already ready for that. Let's throw that in there.
That's awesome.
So I am super grateful that I signed on as a partner with Xometry, almost 4 years ago.
Yeah. And I mean, I know we were wrapping up, but since you brought it up, it's interesting. Is there any lessons learned for, like, you've clearly been successful with us, right? So is there any advice for, like, if you're starting with Xometry, right? Like what kind of advice do you have for how to be successful, taking the right jobs for your shop, and, learning to navigate, kind of, because, some of it's like, it's almost like a little bit of buffet, right? There's a lot of stuff there, and you gotta find what's right for you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Be picky. Be picky. I've in the a few years ago, there's been a couple of jobs that I took that were not a good fit. They just were not a good fit. And so just be picky and make sure you know what you can do. You need to know what your capabilities are. We all have limitations to our capabilities just as humans, and every shop has a capability limit as well. And you need to know exactly what those are. We actually just ran into that with a customer that's not Xometry related at all, and we don't have the machinery to make the part that they needed. Luckily they're a really good customer and they're very easy to work with, and I deal directly with the engineers on the team, and I was able to just call them on their personal cell phone and say, hey, we can't do this.
Yeah.
And they were very open to it. And that's, I guess, something that I've learned from dealing with Xometry support is you just have to have communication. You've got to say, hey, it's okay to not be able to do something. It happens. Like it's a thing. I remember that used to keep me up at night when I was first starting out. This isn't going to work. What do? How do I tell them I can't do this? And it's not as big a deal as maybe some of us make it out to be.
Yeah.
It can be fixed. Somebody can do it, I assure you.
I had to go on mute there for a second. My dog is going crazy at the delivery, man, and that's 2021 for you, man. Zoom interviews instead of like in person, and everyone's working from home, so your dog's going crazy. No,
like I said, I've gotten really lucky to never have Zoom on my PC until today.
Yeah, we broke that streak for you. No, I think it all ties back to like there's automation, everything's moving more digital, right? But the community and communication, the interperson communication, it will never go away and it will never be not important, right? It will only continue to be as important as it is because, like you said, communicating, like raise your hand. Hey, we're going to run into an issue here, or hey, I can definitely do that for you, right? We added these capabilities, and I'm really excited to be able to take that on. And so developing those relationships and communicating it will always be important. I think that's an important point to make there. Yeah. So, well, Mark, man, like I said, I so enjoyed this, and it'll be really exciting to check in with Profast in the future and see, kind of what amazing things you guys do. And as you layer on some new technology and we are able to get that third machine set up, it'll be fun to check back in with you. So thanks for taking the time with us. And I really appreciate you checking in.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. Happy to do it.
Yep. Awesome. Well, guys, check back in next week for another episode of Amplify with Adam. And Mark, like I said, really appreciate you stopping in, man.
Thanks, guys.